Well, and we've been reporting all week on the western wildfires that are intensifying in California and Oregon.
Temperatures this weekend in the American West will be dangerously high, rising more than 20 degrees above normal in the Pacific Northwest. Dr. Jonathan Patz is the director of UW-Madison's Global Health Institute, and he is an expert on the effects of climate change on human health. Jonathan, good to see you. Welcome to Live at 4.
Susan, great to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
This has been such an interesting thing to watch. What is going on out west, and why is this heat wave so unusual?
Well, you know, what we're seeing is more intense heat waves as the Earth is warming up. Your previous story about red tides has something to do with warmer sea surface temperatures. The Pacific Ocean has been warming more than 1/10 of a degree per decade, and that warmer water in part led to the high pressure ridge that caused this massive heat dome. So under this heat dome, imagine that's like a pressure cooker. You had that situation. So we're seeing more of these as climate is changing, and climate change will bring hotter, more frequent, and longer lasting heat waves. Heat waves kill more people than any other weather disaster in the United States. About 1,300 people die every year in heat waves.
So then does that mean that we see a lot more hospital admissions and you know, it puts a strain on our hospitals then?
Absolutely, and heat wave mortality is underestimated because it's not always on the death certificate, you know, as far as heat as a contributing factor. So, you know, what we see is about half the number reported, but it's twice that number, about 1,300 lives lost every year from heat waves. And certainly it puts a strain on hospital systems. You saw during the Chicago heat wave, for example, in 1995, you know, refrigerator trucks dealing with the bodies. And, you know, so these episodes overwhelm the system.
Well, this particular year, and especially out west, we're seeing a combination of things, right? We're seeing an extreme drought, high pressure, and climate change together. And that seems like an ominous combination.
Yeah, so these are very interrelated. The bottom line is if you increase average global temperatures, you're going to see an increased frequency of heat waves. And with heat waves, you get evaporation from the soils, and you get drought conditions and wildfires. So drought, wildfires, heat waves, they're all interconnected. We've actually studied this at Wisconsin, the UW-Madison, and looking at the eastern cities, east of the Mississippi River, we estimate that we'll see a tripling in the number of very hot days. For example, Milwaukee, we'll see almost a tripling in the number of days over 90 degrees Fahrenheit simply by mid-century. So a few decades from now, we're going to see a tripling in the number of hot days, and that held up for every city that we looked at. So this is something that is expected with climate change.
And we have a few seconds left, but when it is hot, a lot of us turn on the air conditioner. How does that contribute to these rising temperatures?
Well, you know, if our electric grid continues to have dirty energy, especially coal, in the mix to generate that power, air conditioning saves lives, but if the electricity used for air conditioning comes from dirty sources, it's a trade-off. We actually did a study that found that you would lose 1,000 lives a year for cooling demand required in the mid-century, like 2060s. So air conditioning is good, but the electricity must come from clean energy sources.
Oh, Jonathan, this is such a fascinating topic. We could use a lot more time to talk to you, but unfortunately we're out of time this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.